Hi, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box down below. I'm most active over on Instagram, where you'll find me as both Rainbow Ange and Yarn and Yarns. Here on the channel you'll usually find me chatting about my adventures in knitting and spinning and crochet. And I say usually because today I am only going to be chatting about spinning. I'm doing a quick Tour de Fleece roundup video. So if spinning's not your bag, then I completely understand. Thank you for hopping by and saying hello. But if you are interested in my thoughts and feelings about Tour de Fleece, as well as me showing off the yarns that I spun, then please do stick around. Before I dive into that, I just wanted to say a very big thank you to everyone. Well, I always want to thank everyone for joining me, but I want to say a special thank you to anyone who left a comment on my last video. Mentioned on my last episode, well, it was a bit of a non-episode really. I just popped by to say hello and announce the giveaway winners, but I mentioned that the reason for that is because I had managed to tweak my back. We're now several days down the line. It's Friday here today and I recorded that video on Monday and I'm feeling much better, thank you. It's still a bit achy by the end of the day, but I've been managing to get plenty of rest in the evenings, and yeah, I'm well on the road to recovery, so thank you very much for all of your well wishes. It's quite early here in the morning, so I've probably got a bit of a sleepy face going on, and we've got some really bright lights coming in from above the window in the roof above my head, but I wanted to get this video recorded up because if I don't do it now it won't get done. So I've got my cup of tea this morning. I drink turmeric tea in the morning. And yeah, I need it this morning. I'm feeling a bit croaky. Please bear with me. But I've got a little bit of time this morning before I have to head off to work. So yeah, let's do this. A few videos ago, I posted about my Tour de Fleece plans. And for anyone who maybe didn't watch that or perhaps isn't a spinner, each year there's a little event that goes on in the spinning community. It coincides with the Tour de France cycle race. And basically the idea is you set yourself a goal or not. It could be as simple as spinning a little bit every day while the riders are doing their grueling tour around on their bikes. Then the idea is we sit at our wheels and spin. So you can make that as grueling or as easy on yourself as you want. There are various groups and teams that spin out there, or you can spin on your own. It's entirely up to you. I decided this year, it's my first year of joining Tour de Fleece. I've not really been sort of spinning as seriously as I have been this year before. So I decided to join Team Hilltop Cloud, and Hilltop Cloud are a lovely company based here in Wales, actually in the UK, owned by Kate, and Kate is the dyer and the brains behind Hilltop Cloud, and she dyes up some amazing fibres. She's always got something interesting in her shop, so I'll link her shop down below. But basically my goal was to spin through a bunch of Hilltop Cloud fibre, and I showed in my video at the start of the tour a big basket of fibre that I was hoping to spin through. I think all told there was about 950 grams of fibre in that basket, so I knew I wouldn't get through it all in the 3-week period of the tour. I did manage to get through 550 grams though, so yeah, I'm really pleased with that. The braids that I didn't spin up, so just as really a record for me and also for anyone who did join me for that first video and perhaps remembers what I showed in that video. I didn't get round to spinning up the Nordic fibres, which were the two in the Sif colourway, which is these lovely sort of yellows and oranges, and there's a bit of green and brown in there too. I've got 200 grams of that, which I picked up on a couple of different destashes. I also got the Earth colourway in that same Nordic blend, which is 50% merino, 50% Corriedale. I'm still hoping to spin those up, probably for a ritual shawl, which is a lovely pattern by Mars of Hay Brown Berry. And then the final one was this gorgeous skein that I picked up in Wonderwall. It doesn't have a colourway, it just says dyed in spring 2019. It's the Cambrian blend, which is a blend of Welsh Mule and Blueface Leicester, and it was this lovely rusty orange, and this is one of my most favourite braids in my stash, and I'm thinking of including it in a spin for a sweater, so I wanted to save that one till last anyway, so I knew that I probably wouldn't get to that one. So that's all I have left in my Hilltop basket from the start of the Tour de Fleece, although I have made one sneaky Hilltop Cloud purchase. I'll talk a little bit more about why I made the purchase later when I'm chatting through one of my spins. But I will show you, because one braid of fibre can't travel alone, I did pick up another beautiful braid from Kate as a sort of little treat for myself for surviving Tour de Fleece. And this is on her Rambouillet base. It's 100 grams. Again, it doesn't have a colourway. It just says dyed July 2019. There's a number on here, so I don't know whether that has any bearing for colour reference. It's 90318, and look at that, isn't that just gorgeous? And I thought that would be a real treat for myself at some point in the future to spin up those beautiful colours. They're absolutely gorgeous. So I've never spun Rambouillet before, so that was what sort of tempted me, and then when I saw this colourway, yeah, had to come home and live with me. Right, so on to the things that I did complete. I try and remember these in spin order, but I may be slightly out. So I think the first thing that I spun was a braid that I picked up on D-Stash. I ended up having 90 grams in the braid, so I guess whoever I purchased it from had taken a little sample and perhaps spun it up and then decided it wasn't for them. It did say on the listing that I think she sold it as 80 grams, so there was actually more fibre here than I thought I purchased, and it's this lovely skein of gold. I think this was from Kate's Time Traveller Club. The listing said she does various fibre clubs. Yeah, and it's this lovely gold with beautiful specks of stellina, and it really did look like spun gold on my bobbins. It was absolutely beautiful to spin, and I ended up chain plying this, and from 90 odd grams I ended up with 201 meters of yarn. So that's, yeah, a fair amount of yardage for me from a 3-ply. I haven't really had a chance to take a look at wraps per inch and things like that for these fibres, but I'm guessing my usual sort of default tends to be between a sort of fingering and DK weight, and this probably looks to be about that. In various places it's definitely DK. There's a few sort of finer spots, so maybe 4-ply to sort of sport. But yeah, that was such a beautiful spin and a really nice way to start the tour. After that, I popped onto the wheel the special colourway that Kate had dyed for this year's Tour de Fleece, and she had called it the Pays de Gaule colourway. Sadly, this is no longer available, and I don't think she'll be dyeing anymore. We've been chatting about it over on the Hilltop Cloud group, and I think she said that the colourways that she does each year for Tour de Fleece, she doesn't like to repeat. So yeah, it's such a shame because this made a beautiful yarn. I ended up doing a traditional 3-ply for this, so I just split the braid in 3. I split the braid horizontally, I think, rather than vertically, which I often do, and just span up the different sections and plied them together, and I've ended up with this gorgeous skein of yarn. I just love these colours. So the fibre originally had sort of pops of really bright yellow and orange with some green and some blue and some red, and the idea was it had been inspired by the Welsh flag, plus obviously the countryside that the cyclists cycle through, and the yellow jersey, which is worn by the winner of the tour and the winner of each stage, I believe, of the cycle. But yeah, this turned into some absolutely beautiful yarn. I don't think the light today is rubbish, so I do apologise. The colours are slightly more vibrant than are showing up on the screen right now, but it's just, yeah, it's just a really beautiful skein of yarn. And I ended up, let me check my notes, 185 meters. So this is definitely slightly thicker than the gold yarn that I spun. I also ended up with a tiny little mini skein. So as quite often happens, I'm not super precise when I divide my braids. I try and get them fairly accurate, but it's inevitable that a bobbin will run out before the others. So I ended up with a little mini skein as well of chain plied yarn. So this should be sort of almost like a self striping. So I have no plans again yet for this. I think I will probably incorporate it as part of a bigger project. The colours are so beautiful. Yeah, it'd be really nice to maybe match this up with something, and perhaps I would have enough for you know, the yoke of a sweater, and then pair it with a plain colour, or maybe find some other braids in similar sort of colour tones and make a sort of fun striped sweater. We shall see. It will sit in my stash and I'll ruminate on it. And this little mini skein, that'll probably get made into a gnome at some point. I know you probably all laugh about my gnomes and my gnome collection. I haven't made any for a while, so I need to get back to those. All the while that I was spinning those two, I was also working away on some spindle spinning, and I had a gradient pack from Kate on her Cambrian base, which is the Welsh Mule and the Blueface Leicester blend, and it was called the Steam pack. The colourway was called Steam, and it was lovely variation from black through to like a maroony red, and a few different colours in between. So I span up those, and then I also span alongside that a braid of the natural Cambrian, so just in a natural sort of creamy colour. And my thought was to ply the two together to come up with a really fun sort of mild gradient. And I started doing that, and my plans became a cropper because I quickly ran out of the natural fibre. So basically what happened is I didn't pay enough attention to how I had spun my gradient pack, and I spun the natural much thicker, so I ran out of the natural a lot quicker. So in the end I managed to, let me get these out, end up with two complete skeins of the mild gradient. So this was the black, and then the next colour in the gradient was this lovely sort of grey blue. So I got two skeins from that. The third colour was this sort of really nice sort of natural grey beige. This little bit is still hanging out on my fancy storage bobbin, but I managed to ply up the majority of that colour. So I've got the third in my sort of mild gradient, and then as you can see, that's where I ran out of the natural. So that is why I ended up making an order from Kate, and how the Rambouillet came to live with me, because I now have another skein of the natural to spin up, because I still have these two beautiful colours and obviously the rest of the sort of beigey grey to ply up. So I actually started spinning up that on my spindle yesterday. So I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks I shall have this mild gradient complete. I was a little bit disappointed, and I think I lost a little bit of my spinning mojo after that happened, but it's my own fault. I have watched a few episodes, like podcast episodes about spinning and things, and by the way, if you know of any spinning podcasts and you'd like to leave me a recommendation, I'd really love to hear them down below. At the moment I watch Rachel of Woolen Spinning, and I have started watching Bex of Tiny Fibre Studio. I've been watching lots of their back episodes, and there's a few other sort of podcasters that I know that are spinning at the moment, so obviously I watch their spinning content. But if there is any specifically spinning related podcasts or channels that you can recommend, I would love to hear about them. So yeah, my spinning mojo sort of took a little bit of a dive because I was a little bit disappointed in myself. I should have done a little sample and made sure that I was spinning to the same thickness, but I just carried on merrily in my own little dream world, and yeah, ended up with two different thicknesses. It's okay, I have no problem with it. I think I really like the finished yarn. Again, I have no idea what I'm going to do with them, but now I need to try and match my spinning on the second Cambrian braid, which will be a bit more tricky because I've had, you know, a week or so's break. So yeah, I guess these are the lessons that we learn, don't we? I ended up with just over 60 grams of this one, the black, and that's 103 meters, and just under 60 on this one, 98 meters. So those are fairly sort of consistent with each other. And the final spin that went on my wheel had 3 50-gram braids of naturally dyed merino fibre that I picked up from Kate at Wonderwool. So I decided to have a little bit of a fun experiment, I guess inspired by the sort of marling that I was doing on the Cambrian yarn, I was kind of inspired to split up the 3 braids and have a play, and I've ended up with a mini skein set from the 350-gram braids. So let me just pull those out of the bag and show you. There we go, bunched up there. I have a whole selection of mini skeins. So what I did was I started with the 3 solid colours. So these were the 3 colours that I had of the fibre. This beautiful sort of corn coloured yellow was named Amber, and then I had this lovely sort of purple, which was Plum, and then this beautiful sort of orangey coral colourway called Geranium. So I spun up 20 grams of each fibre and then just 2-plied those together. And then I also decided to spin up all of the fibre in sort of 10-gram clumps and mix them together. So I've got a skein of the Geranium and the Amber, the Geranium and the Plum, and then also the Plum and the Geranium. No. Yeah, the Plum and the Geranium. Too many colours, getting confused. So they're the sort of 3 mould 2-plies. And then finally I decided to spin up a 3-ply. So this is probably my favourite of the lot. I did a skein, which obviously is slightly heavier, it's 30 grams, and this has all 3 colours blended into it. I ended up getting between 30 and 50 metres per mini skein for those, and interestingly enough the 3-ply has turned out to be probably the finest yarn out of all of them. The rest are slightly thicker. I think I was a bit more conscious that if I wanted to use these skeins together in a project in the future, I didn't want the 3-ply, even though it had an extra ply, to end up wildly thicker than the others, and consequently it's ended up slightly finer because I was a bit more conscious about how I was spinning that. So yeah, that's it, all of my spins for Tour de Fleece. I was really happy to have worked through as much of my Hilltop cloud fibre as I did. I guess I've got a couple of reflections. I really did enjoy spinning for the Tour de Fleece because it was a great way to chat with the community. We were chatting on the Hilltop Cloud Tour de Fleece thread every day. Everyone was posting really inspiring pictures of all of the spinning they were up to. There were some really prolific spinners over there who were very inspirational, and there were also some people who were just dipping in and out through various teams and like spinning up a braid here and there for various teams. So yeah, there was a real mix of people over in the thread, and it was just nice to chat. I also enjoyed spinning through some of my stash, so I think everything that I spun was in my stash. Some of it was older stash than others. I picked up a few Hilltop Cloud braids recently on people's destashes on Ravelry, so it was quite nice both ways. So some of my older stash got spun up, and also some things that had recently come in went sort of straight into yarn, so that was really good. I enjoyed that too. The things that I would do differently for next year, I think I would make a little bit more of a plan. I enjoyed spinning for a team, and I definitely would do that again. As I say, I love the community, but I didn't really have a plan, and I still don't. I don't think for any of the yarns that I spun I have particular projects in mind. So in one way that was fun because I didn't put any pressure on myself to spin the yarns in a particular way. I was able to have a play. Obviously I played with colours in both the Cambrian and the naturally dyed and did a bit of fun experimenting and marling. However, I think if I'd have stepped back and taken a little bit of time, then maybe the error with the Cambrian steam gradient wouldn't have crept in. I would have perhaps been a little bit more thoughtful about my spinning, rather than sort of maybe rushing through it a bit and thinking, oh, I want to get this done, I want to get this done for the tour. So yeah, I think I need to sort of take a step back and think about quality rather than quantity, although I am happy with that mild gradient, and I think I will be at the end as long as I can get my second braid of Cambrian spun up at about the same sort of thickness. it's not entirely as I had planned. I would have loved to have had that complete gradient finished in the tour, which I would have done if I'd have managed to spin those 100-gram batches at the same thickness. As I say, plans for the other handspun would be nice too. I've now got some really nice handspun sort of sat in my stash, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, which I think for the majority of the other spinning that I've done, I have had plans. So this is like slightly different, and I don't want to, I know I probably will, because I can probably spin at a faster rate than I can knit through my handspun stash, given that I have a massive commercial yarn and indie dyed stash as well. If I continue to accumulate yarn at sort of a skein a week handspun, then yeah, my handspun stash will quickly get out of hand. So it would be nice to be a little bit more thoughtful and have some projects at least in mind, even if I can't start them straight away. However, I'm not unhappy with that. I decided kind of last minute to jump in and join the tour, and kind of last minute to join Team Hilltop Cloud because I had a reasonable amount of her fibre in my stash. So there wasn't tons of time to do any planning this time round, but I think it's just something that I will bear in mind if and when, which I'm pretty sure I will, take part in the tour again next year. Yeah, I think that's probably everything that I wanted to say about my participation in the Tour de Fleece. So thank you so much if you have stuck with me and watched the video, and I hope you have enjoyed my little reflection on my spinning. Hopefully I should be back to recording a proper episode with knitting and crochet and spinning next week. So please do stick around for that. Thank you so much for supporting the channel through watching, liking, subscribing, sharing that you're watching. I really do appreciate all of your lovely support for the channel. Until next time, I hope you are able to have a wonderful time and do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.